Hi everyone, good afternoon ladies and gentlemen. I am the producer Eleanor. I am a second year accounting sciences student at the University of the Witwatersrand. I am also the Wits History Makers Treasurer. I will be facilitating today's meeting. First and foremost, I'd just like to thank you guys so much for taking the time out of your weekends to come and be with us and talk about entrepreneurship. So, without any further ado, I will welcome the Wits History Makers Chairperson, Ms. Simpiwe Ngwenya, to come and talk to you guys on why entrepreneurship. Simpiwe?
Okay, hi guys. Thank you once again for joining us. Honestly, I'm really proud of you for being here. It really shows that you guys want to create value, and make a difference in your communities. So one of the reasons that actually motivated us to post this webinar, we're seeing all these dominant issues that are affecting us in our country right now. I mean, we have the COVID-19, which is obviously a global pandemic, but we have many other issues that are affecting us, such as the high crime rates. Wait, can't hear anything. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yes.
Okay, I just saw a message now. It says I can't hear anything. Okay, it's fine. Yeah, but we have a lot of issues that are affecting us, as a country, like the high crime rates, GBV, water scarcity. There's ESCOM as well. So it's just a lot of issues, and I could spend the entire day if I were to mention all these issues. But the point that I'm trying to bring forth is that all these issues, they require us as the youth to actually try and provide solutions for them. So that's what we actually do at History Makers. We are trying to have a hand, in tackling some of these issues. And two of the main, most important issues that we focus on is, number one, your youth unemployment. And as we all know, that it's mainly caused by the lack of skills in our youth. So what we do is we provide skills development programs in the form of free weekly classes for entrepreneurship, programming and coding, investments in real estate, share investments, just with the aim of equipping the youth with the skills that they need in order to become suitable candidates for any opportunity out there. The second most important issue that we also focus on is your poverty. And one of the things that we've realized is that it's mainly driven by the financial illiteracy levels in our country. And, it has led our country to have one of the highest income and wealth inequalities in the world. So what we do is we host regular financial seminars, and our last one was 2 weeks back with Stan Lib, and you guys can go and watch it on our YouTube channel. So with these regular seminars, we just aim to help the youth know how to manage their finances, know how to save, how to invest, just in general how to build generational wealth and just break this poverty cycle. So that's just a summary of what we do at History Makers, and I would really love to encourage all of you to just build on your skill set, right? I mean, like, certain skills are becoming redundant as time goes by, certain jobs are being lost, and it requires you guys to broaden your skill set. So I'd really love to encourage all of you to just, even if it's just taking up online courses, but just, improve on your skill set. However, I'm really glad that you guys are here today to actually improve your entrepreneurial skills. I do know for a fact that all of you do have the potential to become entrepreneurs. You all do have that potential, and all it needs is for you to unlock it, and stimulate your entrepreneurial thinking. And I'm really glad that we have a speaker from one of the best, if not the best, for me, it really is the best organization when it comes to unlocking the entrepreneurial potential amongst individuals, and we've seen their progress over the years. They've, been able to develop high impact, responsible individuals, and they're really doing a great job, and their vision is quite in line with our vision as history makers, which is to ensure that our youth do have the skills in order to be able to reach socio-economic development. So I really look forward to this event. I just hope that, with this event, you guys can just be motivated to think out of the box. I know that all of us, we do have those dreams that, once we're done with our studies, we want to, get hired in a certain company, get a great salary, great position, which is a great thing. But I just hope that, our focus can now be more shifted towards, dreaming of being the next innovators, the next, problem solvers, the next history makers the next agents of change in our communities through entrepreneurship. And it's really, we really need to provide solutions for this, because we constitute, as the youth, we constitute of about 50% of our population. So that means half of our economy's success is dependent on us as the youth, So we regularly need to ask ourselves, what am I doing, to actually drive up the economy? What am I doing to actually create value in my community? Yeah, so I really am looking forward to what our speaker has to provide for us, and I just hope that you guys have your pens and papers out to jot down all the important points he has. Yeah, so please do enjoy and engage as well.
Okay, so without any further ado, I will be introducing our speaker from the Allan Orbis Foundation. He is Mr. Dhlamini, who graduated from the University of the Witwatersrand, actually with a BCom accounting degree, and from the University of South Africa with an advanced diploma in accounting sciences. He is the founding director of the Falcop Tech Incubator, the chairperson of the Audit and Performance Committee at Emalanteni Local Municipality, an independent audit committee member at Amajua District Municipality, former public sector director of Global Computing and Telecoms, the founder at DTX Capital, the founding director of Road Safety Awareness Africa NPC, former independent audit committee member of the Metropolitan Trading Company, former CEO of Team Tibiela Foundation, and currently the program director for the Allan Orbis Foundation Fellowship Program. So, Mr. Dhlamini, you can take over.
Thank you so much. I've never heard people introduce me like that. So thank you for the kind words of welcome. I'm just going to share my screen. I've prepared a presentation, and I wish we could have done this in person so that it could be more interactive. Please do let me know if you can see my screen.
Yes, we can see it.
We can see it.
Okay, great stuff. Okay. As I've been introduced, my name is Mr Dhlamini. I'm the Fellowship Program Director at the Allan Orbis Foundation, and I'm really happy and honored to have been invited by Wits History Makers to come and speak to you today. It is a true honor, and I hope that you can find value in what I'm going to be sharing with you. But before I begin, I'd like to play a short video, which can hopefully give you context in terms of the beneficiaries of our program and what some of them are up to currently.
People think jobs are created by these big corporates. Not necessarily so. It is small businesses that actually create 5 jobs, 10 jobs, and added up together, it actually makes a massive difference.
It's this kind of, you're a hunter-gatherer. They may not have all the knowledge, they may not have all the skills, they may not have all the money, but they know how to mobilize resources.
My grandfather ran like a chain of spaza shops in rural areas and townships, and then my dad was always talking to me about how I should carry on with what he did. So I think entrepreneurship for me was something that was going to happen eventually, and I think applying for the foundation is what just fast-tracked it.
Was birthed out of a necessity for my daughter, wanting a black doll for her. When I asked her mother, I was like, how come she doesn't have a doll that looks like her to play with? And her mother was like, it's either too difficult to find or it's too expensive when you find one. And then I was like, okay, that needs to change.
A typical typical black woman, you probably had your hair relaxed at the age of 5 and you haven't seen what it looks like naturally since then. It's this kind of process of undoing toxic thinking about what you're supposed to look like. And so that journey made me realize there wasn't a lot of product on the shelves that catered to women of color and particularly to black women. We make all natural hair and skincare products using raw materials sourced from across the African continent, empowering women of color to feel beautiful naturally.
My co-founder in 2015 went to his aunt's place in Malahleni, and when he was there first night, guys broke in and took 50,000 rand worth of goods. Like, it was not only him that night. The guys went to 7 other houses and stole stuff there. So I think based on that problem, we saw that there was a huge gap for home security in townships. We develop low-cost alarm systems for township communities. So it's a combination of a very low-cost motion sensor and a smartphone app. If you've grown up in a township, you realize that it's not really about you only, but it's about the community. Usually when security comes into communities, it kind of like separates communities.
So you just download the app.
Yeah. So by the fact that our units notify you when something is happening in your house and notifies your neighbors, we want to kind of foster those community engagements and enable people to respond as communities.
We thought to ourselves, we actually need to partner with the existing infrastructure, which is the retailers. And they were quite keen. To our surprise, actually, they're like, okay, we've been looking for a product like this. We're targeting the age 3 to about 5, 6, because that's where personality is built. That's where self-image is built. You're playing with a product that looks like you. This product is actually beautiful the way you are, with your brown skin and your kinky afro hair.
The business started in my kitchen. We went from kind of selling online and at markets to now being in 85 click stores and 10 wellness warehouse stores and many more stores coming up. As an entrepreneur, you create something and it kind of lives in your head and then it becomes a product. You carry the vision. The mission then is to make the vision contagious so that other people will help you carry it as well. What really helped me pull out ahead of the rest was the support and the resources I could draw from the foundation. I got seed funding in the first year of the business, which is something that really helps to propel a business and help me take more risks.
I just saw the fellowship as a scholarship program. But when I was applying, I was like, these people actually want like critical thinkers, people that actually want to change South Africa.
I don't think there's any other training forum that's as good and as well equipped as the foundation. I'll probably still have a business if I was not in the foundation, but it probably was going to be 10, 20 years delayed. It was going to be 100 times more harder.
Entrepreneurship isn't inherently transformative for businesses to actually contribute to society. They have to have society in mind.
Entrepreneurship can only impact the majority if entrepreneurs are solving critical societal issues.
I used to be investment manager at a petroleum company, and the reason for my departure there was that there is a bigger role I need to play. We need to change the landscape and make sure that the wealth is distributed in a fair manner. But nothing can do that more efficiently than business.
When you can feel beautiful and comfortable in your own skin, it inspires confidence, it inspires self-efficacy, and all the things that we need kind of on this continent to have a population and people who can access human flourishing and prosperity.
Who we are, our vision is to have an entrepreneurially equitable South Africa flourishing with meaningful employment. The mission is to foster a community of responsible entrepreneurs. And I will go into detail a bit later in terms of what we mean by responsible entrepreneur. And what we believe is that it only takes one responsible entrepreneur that is high impact to change the reality of a city, even a country, by offering long-term and meaningful job creation. Now, the value chain in the foundation Right at the beginning, what we've introduced is a gamified experience. So this is a game that high school learners play. And this is a means to teach entrepreneurship, because currently in the country, we don't have content for entrepreneurship within our education system. So young people play this game. It's a 5-week challenge and they win amazing prizes. They win amazing prizes. It's called the Allan Gray Entrepreneurship Challenge. And also we've got the scholarship program. Now, the scholarship program was started in order to assist or to become a pipeline into the fellowship. So this is where we have our entrepreneurship education. So in scholarship, the intake is from grade 6 in order to support primarily Black African learners who would not ordinarily have access to some of the top schools in the country. And there we look for financial need. We nurture them throughout their high school journey up until they can get into the university program, which is the fellowship that I look after, where we select both from grade 12 and from first year in order to come into the fellowship. I'll unpack what we do. And when you obtain your degree and when you've gone through our entrepreneurship development program, you then qualify to become a fellow, which means that you graduate both from university and from our program, and you have absolutely no obligation towards the foundation for all the commitments that we would have made, and you become a fellow for life. And as I've spoken, E Squared is our sister funding company that assists those who are already in business with seed capital, as you would have seen in the previous video. And therefore, we nurture you throughout your journey from your career, whether you do become an entrepreneur or you become a leader in a corporate. We do not prescribe, because we do understand that not everybody is going to become an entrepreneur. However, the wraparound support is available to you throughout the rest of your life. Now, when I got the brief, it was quite interesting that perhaps we've got different understanding of what entrepreneurship is. And I was asked to also just reflect on entrepreneurship versus small business. And I think at times we tend to treat fledgling entrepreneurs as a smaller version of a large corporate in the way that we offer training and support. The challenge is that we've got this tendency to teach managerial skills and call those entrepreneurship skills. We teach you how to write a business plan. We teach you how to do financial forecasting and how many legal structures you need to have in place in order for you to be successful. Now, that information is very useful, but it's for running a business that has got customers and cash flow. What we've discovered is that it's the attitudes, behaviors, and skills required to discover an opportunity are distinct from the attitude, behaviors, and skills required to exploit an opportunity. So the difference is, one is discovery skills and the other is delivery skills. And I'll unpack that in the next slides to come. Research that was been done in Harvard in the recent past was looking at some of the big corporations in the US, and they drilled down to say, what did they look like when they were startups? So they focused on the reality of the entrepreneur. And what they found was that there was really no breakthrough technology in how they were formed. There was no big aha moment. And the entrepreneurs were not spending a lot of time writing formal business plans or doing the traditional market research, like in the form that we are taught at business school, to do the corporate style market research. And what is quite interesting is that they had little or no experience at all when they started those big businesses. Now, some of us may think that these entrepreneurs have got magical DNA, and you know, we hear about natural born entrepreneurs, and I think we need to stop looking at entrepreneurship in this binary way, where it's either you are or you're not. and I'll go into our philosophy. But when we attribute this to some hereditary attribute, we fail to recognize that it's the processes and methods, it's the underlying motivation, the beliefs and the assumptions, the culture, the social and environmental and situational factors that encourage or inhibit the development of entrepreneurial attitudes, behaviors, and skills. The main point is that when we assign some uniqueness to individuals that pursue entrepreneurship, we often fail to identify the true cause of the behavior. Now, if you look at this graph, there's a concept that we find useful as a framework to distinguish between this entrepreneurial and this managerial. So I wish to disentangle the two today. So if you look at this this graph, it's how Dr. George Land, the author of a book called Breakpoint and Beyond, almost explains this transformation theory according to him and attributes it to how we should start thinking about entrepreneurship. So it is designed to explain the nature of change within any system, right? So you've got the search phase, the growth phase, and the phase of obsolescence. So during the search phase, so basically how to adapt, the skills that are required for you to survive in each of these phases are not the same. So you need to be able to know and understand what rules apply to which phase and at what point. And I think at this point, some of us or those who are inclined can Google the word maladaptive, which is the failure to adapt. So it is the human condition. It's the tendency to cling on to a way of thinking and ignore the situation around us. So basically, even if you look at the context where we're in now, where people are talking about the new normal and how we used to do things in February is completely going to be different. So even if you are in business or you are an entrepreneur, you need to be able to adapt or you will perish. So if you look at this graph, the orange dots there, they represent breakpoints. So this is the moment in time when the rules of survival change. In the search phase, there in yellow, it is characterized by ambiguity and a lot of uncertainty, right? So with ambiguity, the variables and the outcomes are unknown. And so within the search phase, the organism is searching for a connection with its environment. That's how I'd like to talk about it. Because as humans, we connect with the environment by creating something useful for other humans. So this is the central theme in entrepreneurship. In this context, the individual is searching for that intersection between our own interests and the ability to look after the needs of our fellow humans. So the first breakpoint at the bottom there happens when we have evidence that we have created something useful. Once we have evidence that somebody buys into our idea or to the concept that we are creating, that is when the first breakpoint occurs. Now, the little green bar at the bottom represents resources. So you'll see in the first phase, there's a high level of uncertainty and ambiguity, and there's little resources. Now, ambiguity makes us anxious. In the search phase, it is optimized by this ambiguity, and this is the search, and it's filled with naivety and resource constraints, and this is what pushes entrepreneurs to go that extra mile than if you had all the resources that you required in the world. So from an entrepreneurial context, we hit the first breakpoint when somebody is buying into our idea or into our concept, and it is the evidence of usefulness. Now, the locus of control is internal. So we've got to figure it out or we will perish. Now, if we look at the second phase, once we find the first intersection where we figure out how to create something useful, then the useful finding skills become less relevant. Now, what we must do now is to replicate what we found in phase one in order for the system to grow. This is where you need to stop searching and start delivering and start replicating. So it's about delivering faster. It's about how do you improve? How do you become cheaper? How do you improve the experience? So it is accelerating that growth. And that's where mostly the managerial skills are required. And if you can look there, the ambiguity and the uncertainty has decreased and the resources have increased if you look at the green bar over there. Now, the locus of control here is external. It is often what we learn in business school. So what we started out with ambiguity is now turning to certainty and confidence in starting to understand why people are buying into our idea and we're starting to develop this expertise, and we've got access to resources. And then all of a sudden we hit the second breaking point. We know we hit the first break point when people started to buy in. The second break point is when people start to opt out. So this allows you at times to fool yourself into thinking that you're going to be okay, but it creates enough of a delay that in time you may miss the opportunity to diversify. Hashtag, we can talk about codec. When you hit the second, you can't keep doing what you've been doing in the first and the second phase, because we know that nothing fails like success. So what started out as naivety became confidence, and now can easily become arrogance and denial. And if it persists, then the system will perish. Then the third phase is the phase of obsolescence. So here, when you plan, you need to really figure out everything before you take a step, because the cost of failure is very high. It is also very prudent. So in column 3, you have to know before you go. Whereas in column 1, you have to go in order to know. The opportunity is present, but it's not visible in column 1. And the cost of failure is low. Therefore, through micro-experimentation, we can enable entrepreneurs to tease out something that is latent. So as the foundation, we mainly focus on the first phase. This is pre-ideation. This is where students are coming straight from matric, and they think that they want to make a contribution. And we've got methods in terms of our selection criteria, which we can identify the core competencies that we believe lead to entrepreneurial action. I'll touch on them a little bit later. So we focus mainly on the entrepreneurial skills, which is in column 1, whereas often when we're talking about supporting entrepreneurs, we're talking about those business skills that are in the second column. They are very necessary. However, for entrepreneurship, the first phase is very critical. And then how do we define entrepreneurship? And for us, we found that it's much easier rather to ask people, how many of you want to start a business? Because we go to many high schools, and when we are doing our outreach, to say, rather than saying, how many of you want to start a business, but we rather ask, how many of you would like to discover an opportunity? Because simply put, entrepreneurship is an opportunity discovery process. And we believe that the skills that it takes for you to become an entrepreneur are the skills that employers demand in the workforce as we speak right now. And we believe that anybody can develop these skills. And our current system of education has either underdeveloped or ignored these skills. So as we saw in the first column, that to a certain extent, the lack of money was helpful because it makes you want to try things. The lack of experience becomes an advantage, and it creates the conditions where you can be able to nurture the entrepreneur. Now, just briefly on the mindset, the definition that we use is that it is underlying beliefs and assumptions that influence behavior. Now, this behavior looks at this mindset to say, mostly it's unconsciously acquired through either social influence, and this mindset seeks to automate as much as it can because it relies on habits, and it, as defined previously, it's a set of belief systems, right? So in entrepreneurial mindset theory, if you want to understand what and why entrepreneurs are so engaged and why they're so resilient, why they're so resourceful, why they're so creative, and such good critical thinkers, stop looking at the individual and look at the nature of the goal that they're pursuing and the relationship that they have to that goal. So when we look at locus of control, it is a deeply held belief. And the motivation, it's in most cases, it's intrinsically. That means that the task itself is the reward rather than extrinsic. Okay. And just finally, how we define entrepreneurial mindset, the way to think about it is that you need to say that and believe that it is my responsibility to figure out how to make myself useful to others. And by doing so, I can empower myself. So I think that was just the first part about unpacking this entrepreneurial mindset and distinguishing between entrepreneurship or redefining entrepreneurship, and also just looking at the difference between how we nurture these entrepreneurs. Sometimes we fall into the trap of teaching business skills versus entrepreneurship skills. Now, I'll briefly just explain what the fellowship is about and what we focus on. So basically, we focus on cultivating entrepreneurship in candidate fellows. We call them candidate fellows because the ultimate is to have a community of Allan Gray fellows. This is a community of brothers and sisters who are like-minded in thinking, who share the same values. So while they're at university, we call them candidate fellows because they are still undergoing they're still drinking the juice that we're giving to them in terms of the skill set that they require. So what we want to see at the end of the fellowship program is that we want to see individuals, firstly, who desire to create value through responsible entrepreneurship, who see entrepreneurship as a viable career path. You may come in, and we've had this in the past, where people are just here for the scholarship and for the support throughout university. And some of them, as they drink this juice, they then see actually entrepreneurship as a viable career path over and above the path that they're pursuing at university. And at the end of the fellowship program, we want you to be able to take an idea, develop into a viable opportunity, and really to understand the value proposition of the foundation and E squared, and you must value the culture of community and collaboration. So currently we've got in excess of 530 fellows. So these are brothers and sisters who've graduated and gone through the program, are pursuing different careers currently, and they have this network and support from the foundation, but also from each other. Just a brief overview of the numbers. So in 2020, in our program, currently we have 506 students that are currently within the fellowship program. 18 from Namibia, 5 in Botswana, 5 in Swaziland. And this is the breakdown in terms of demographics. As mentioned before, when we select according to the demographics of the country. And we try and retain, basically the fellowship is renewed annually, so it's not automatic. There's certain criteria that you need to meet in terms of marks, in terms of programmatic engagement, and then it is renewed each year. So currently in the program, we have 388 Black students, 48 colored, 18 Indian or Asian, 50 white, and 2 mixed race. And the breakdown in gender, it's 60-40. And that's where we always try and maintain the gender breakdown. And the partnership universities, the breakdown is there at the bottom. Currently, UCT has got 209, VETS 93, and our short-term goals is to increase our presence in the Eastern Cape, in KZN, and in the Free State. And UFS has done incredibly well. We've doubled the numbers since the previous year. We do have students, 11 of them, that are currently placed at international universities. So once you are in the program, you are able to select or elect or apply to study abroad, and we'll give you the support that would give a student basically that is either studying at UCT or at VETS. What does the fellowship offer? What does it cover? So it's the full cost of university tuition. It's the full cost of university accommodation, meals, and you get mentorship from individually assigned foundation staff as well as a business mentor. There are no postgraduate contractual obligations with the foundation. You do have access to postgraduate funding, especially for those who have graduated to become fellows. We do have academic support and access to entrepreneurial and personal development program, and you get a living stipend. In terms of what the fellowship does, so these are my primary objectives that I oversee. So firstly is that we create awareness of the foundation and the opportunities in South Africa, and I really hope that this partnership with WITS History Makers can start to grow and can become a partner in popularizing this opportunity, because we may have first-year students who may not know about the opportunity but who may be eligible. And currently our selection process is open for all first-year students to apply. You can go to our website and you can then access the online application. So once we select you, then we cultivate, and which means that we teach entrepreneurship, which I'll briefly elaborate on in the next slide. And we instill this entrepreneurial mindset that I spoke to a bit earlier. And also we cultivate these responsible values, which will be coming in my next slide when I'm speaking about the AGOF way. The AGOF is the Allan Gray Orbis Foundation way, and we offer training and support. So we've got 66 students that are currently running businesses while studying. So we track them differently. We give them support and access to funding up to about 150,000 in terms of them validating their ideas, and some of them are already on their way to creating real sustainable ventures. And what we then do as a key performance area for our team is to ensure that they achieve excellence in their academics, because this contributes towards us retaining them within the fellowship. And engagement, therefore, it's something that is pervasive throughout the fellowship program and into the association, because the reason why we do this, we want to have this critical mass of like-minded thinkers who can become future leaders of South Africa, who share similar values of ethics and integrity. Now, how do we do this? We believe that entrepreneurship can be taught from an individual with potential to become a high-impact, responsible entrepreneur. Now, who is this high-impact, responsible entrepreneur? So these are individuals of passion, individuals with integrity and innovation, who are at the forefront of the continuing economic and social transformation of Southern Africa. The individuals serve as ambassadors of the power of initiative, determination, and excellence, acting as role models for many more to follow in their pioneering footsteps. They utilize their potential and the opportunities that they've been afforded to make a life-altering positive impact on the world around them. Now, practically speaking, we ascribe to everybody that there are many different responsibilities that people have in their lives, and to be responsible for something means that you are answerable or you are accountable for that thing. You are responsible because of the power that you have, the control you possess, or the position and title that you hold. And what we teach in our curriculum is that as an entrepreneur, as a result of your skills and your mindset that has been developed, you have the responsibility to make a difference in people's lives, but also you have responsibilities to people and organizations because of your abilities to create so much change and drive. So these are some of the responsibilities that we foster and we teach. Firstly, you've got a responsibility towards your employees. Entrepreneurs need to ensure that their employees have fair wages and salaries. We do not want people who do not follow the minimum wage, and some of our entrepreneurs to be involved in activities that could bring the country and the foundation into disrepute. So we want them to look after their employees and providing them with adequate basic facilities like safe drinking water, electricity, and a hygienic environment for them to thrive in the workplace. Secondly, you've got a responsibility towards your customers. Entrepreneurs have the responsibility to charge customers a reasonable price for their products and services. Entrepreneurs must supply customers with the right quality of goods in the right quantity and avoid unfair selling practices. We believe that the responsibility also resides to your shareholders because you have a responsibility to provide your investors with a fair return on their investment. The next one is a responsibility towards your suppliers and your creditors. The responsibility to maintain a healthy and cooperative business relationship with other businesses, a responsibility towards the public in general, a responsibility towards government, meaning that entrepreneurs should pay their corporate taxes to avoid corrupting public servants by offering bribes, encourage fair trade practices and avoid monopoly practices. This is at the core of how we unpack this concept of responsibility. And in terms of our curriculum or entrepreneurship development program, we've got success indicators that we have crafted through our own research into what makes an entrepreneur. So, and why is this important? There are conflicting or limited definitions of what successful entrepreneurship looks like. So we embarked on a 3-phase project to uncover what makes a successful entrepreneur. And we found that they have 14 entrepreneurial competencies that are easily developable, measurable, and even predictable of entrepreneurial action. And why is this important? Is that a South African-centric profile of startup of entrepreneurs needed to be created. So we worked with the University of Pretoria to do this research. And I will just briefly take you through these competencies, being aware of my time, and maybe just bring it home and give you an example of how we teach these competencies. So when we select, what does a success profile look like? What do we look for in a candidate? So firstly, we look for potential, right? The potential to be able to deal with complexity and at a cognitive level. We use diverse methods and psychometrics in order to make this assessment. But also we look at your personal attributes, you know, what you ascribe to success or failure in a role, your beliefs, your attitudes, your intentions, and we look at who people are. Then we look at competencies, what people can do. And in our selection interviews and in our selection camp, what permeates throughout is we want to know what you've done. We want examples of things that you have done in the recent past. And then the experience is what people have done, as I mentioned, and then it's what people know. So both technical and professional information that we require for you to be able to perform future activities. That plays a big role in our success profile when we do selection, but then we've crafted these to become the foundation pillars that we assess for throughout the selection process. Now, what did we find? Like I said, we had a 3-phase process, and we came up with 14 competencies that we believe lead to entrepreneurial action. They further unpacked later in the slides. If the time allows, I'll be able to then give you definitions of what it means in practice and what is the functional definition of each one of them. So opportunity assessment, creative problem solving, innovation, autonomy, curiosity, growth mindset, self-efficacy. And I wanted to play a video which then talks to self-efficacy, so that you can understand when we're saying in teaching entrepreneurship, we use 4 methods. So we use cyber, we use crew, which means that we have a group context, but also we use coaching, which means that it's a one-to-one process, and also we invite relatable role models to come and talk about their stories so that you can identify the concept of self-efficacy. So the definition as we have it in terms of what we mean when we talk about self-efficacy is that it's the conceptual definition is that the individual's belief in his or her innate ability to achieve their goals. Can it be measured? Yes, right? And then what does this look like, or what does it sound like? It means that you must believe that you can solve difficult problems if you try. Believe that you can influence or convince people about their ideas if they try hard enough. So I'd like to bring this home when we're talking about this concept of self-efficacy to a local entrepreneur. And if you can watch the next video, it should give you context of how to understand this competence. Okay. Looks like I'm just having a bit of trouble playing this video. Please let me know if you can hear the sound.
That I can be outside. I see that grape. I see how it develops. And then I bring it in here. We process it, and I see every day how it changes into wine. That fruit juice changes into wine, and it's amazing. And then see it in the barrel, how it changed. And I always say, when you pick up a glass of wine, you would know how clean the cellar is, where it's grown, what the winemaker, the wine tells you so much. It's a mystery, and yet it tells you so much. And I love that about winemaking. I am Carmen Stevens, and this is my Grey Matter. I grew up in Kraaifontein. My parents then got divorced, and and my mom, being a factory worker, could only afford a flat in Belhar. We came from Kraaifontein, where we lived in this very nice community, to Belhar, where we were not even allowed to go out because gangsterism is big in especially in those flats. So seeing that and thinking, I can never in my life struggle like this. And I really struggled when I was at primary school to read and write English. And my mom was an avid Mills and Boons reader. And she said, try this. So every night she would come home and she would make me read it. And one specifically was about this winemaker in California that was blending wines. And I asked my mom, I'm going to be a winemaker one day. I never even thought it's impossible. I just assumed this is what I'm going to do one day. The way they explained it, it was a completely different life to what I was used to. In the community where I come from, wine to an extent is evil. When I finally found out where I can go and study winemaking, the thing that intrigued me most was how green it was. And I come from a place where there's flats, there's almost no trees, just rubbish everywhere, and it was like, this is where I want to be. So in my wardrobe I had a page where I wrote, this is what I'm going to do. And getting into Elsenburg and studying winemaking was up on my board of aspirations. Again, it never crossed my mind that I would be refused. So when I got my first reply, it was, sorry, the college is only open to white South Africans. The second time, the letter I got said that you have no agriculture background and you didn't do any military service. I think I would have been killed just by asking, can I please go to the military? And I don't think I would have survived. Beginning of '92, I was paging through a magazine and I saw these corresponding colleges, they offered an agriculture diploma. So I did that and I reapplied with my first 6 months, the marks that I got. But this time I went to speak to the college head, and when he finally came, I said, this is the third application. I've done agriculture now. If you do not accept me, I will go to the newspapers. Because now I've done what you required. But I think I had that guts because I was working in an environment where people just spoke their minds, firstly. And secondly, we knew what the political situation was. So I pushed that a little bit and I got in. So 93, I started studying agriculture at Elsenburg. Everybody was very white and very big. And there was only men. When I got inside, I realized that everybody, these big adult men, were all there with their parents. I was a big girl, I didn't need my parents to come with me, so there was about 10 guys standing on the side and they called me. Went over and he basically told me, in certain terms, that you are too stupid to ever graduate from this place. My dad was always, whenever you talk to somebody, you look them in the eyes. You don't stand back, you don't feel sorry for yourself. So I had that attitude, I'm not feeling sorry for myself, I'm here to study. A week later, when I finally got my textbooks, I went through them and most of it was the work I've done in the correspondence course. So brave as I am, I went to go and look for him. And I made the biggest enemies that day, because I basically said, if this is difficult for you, then I'm not sure who's the stupid one, yeah. So I made a lot of enemies. And then they just started to go for me. There came a point in my life where I hated Elsenburg. I just couldn't take it anymore. So in the middle of my second year, the doctor said to my mom, she needs to come home. She's going to have a nervous breakdown. So I made an appointment which was then the guy in charge of agriculture, Western Cape. He was based at Elsenburg. So I went to go and see him to tell him I'm going to close his college for him. I said, I'm going to each and every newspaper that wants to hear my story. I'm going to tell them what's happening here in Elsenburg. I was beside myself. And he just said, sit down. I'm going to make you some tea and you're going to tell me what's happening. And life was so much better. And I think what I've learned out of there, you have this constant thing that everybody's against you. But, you know, just talking to that one person changed my life. I think it's about standing up for yourself. If you know that you are capable, I think you must really zone in on what is that you want to do for the rest of your life. When I got to Elsenburg and studied agriculture, I loved it. So I think it's about getting something that is your niche. I qualified in 95 as the first Black South African to study winemaking. I worked at two big places and then a smaller boutique cellar.
Nice to see you.
My experience in Elsenburg made me very fearful of the industry. When I got into the industry, I was actually quite surprised. Mostly, I was very well accepted into the industry. The very first one I made by myself was in 98, got really good accolades. And the one thing about the South African wine industry is that you've achieved something and you get respect for what you have achieved. In 14, I decided I can do this. I've been winning awards for other people. I have a fairly good name. I'm going to try to do this by myself. I think risk is part of your learning curve as well. You need to take risk, otherwise you'll never know what's on the other side. I believe a lot in myself. I surprise myself what I am capable of. Thinking of things or making up things or identifying problems before it arises. But that comes with time. So today we're sitting in the first 100% black-owned winery in South Africa. I sell most of my wine UK, USA, and I'm trying to penetrate the South African market. This is a difficult market. A lot of the market space is bought by the bigger companies. Stats says that less than 5% of wineries are profitable. You always have to reinvent yourself. You always have to improve, because if you get stuck, you will fail. There's no guarantees, you know. I do well now, there's no guarantee that I'm going to do well in a year. For me, entrepreneurship is taking the step of deciding to go on your own, to be that person to say, I'm going to stand for whatever needs to be done in this business. But I never set my mind, I'm going to become an entrepreneur, or maybe I didn't have the word for it. So I think that the value of entrepreneurship in the country is definitely job creation, like you know. I don't think that a lot of these corporates can do that. It's great that people come up with different ideas to empower people, and by empowering me, just give them a job, because that in itself, you know, is being able to look after your family. When I think about the individual, what does entrepreneurship do for the individual? I think it definitely makes you grow up very fast. It makes you realize, I have bills to pay and nobody's going to give me the money. I need to generate that money. And it opens your eyes to a lot of opportunities in the country, but also it makes you think differently. It makes you want to do better. It makes you want to come up with something that is different, because you need to generate money, so you need to think out of the box. I'm a very practical person. So for me, the actual winemaking is fantastic. I can problem solve like that. I can see something working, and I can, for some reason, I just have that ability to problem solve that. When it comes to, I find it very difficult to talk to people. I've learned that you need to say, listen here, I'm good. Just try it. It's just wine. You can always spit it out if you didn't like it. So for me, that interaction with people, I really find that very daunting. Still. How do I deal with failure? I don't take no for an answer. If you do not make mistakes, if you do not fall down, then you cannot learn. So failure for me, is a stepping stone, so you know where your pitfalls is, so you know how to prepare better for next time. It shouldn't be your end. If the one way didn't work, then pick yourself up and try the other one. I think you need to read a lot. You need to understand what's relevant in the market. In my case, I need to taste a lot of wines. So you need to know what your competitor is doing at all times. And you need to stay relevant. That reinventing yourself, that gives you another angle every time. My first goal was, I've always wanted to have my own label. I got that on the road. I thought, my next goal is, I'm definitely working to get, I don't want a farm, I'm a winemaker, but I need a home for my wines, a proper home where people can actually come and visit. So that is definitely what I'm working to now. With hard work and perseverance, you can achieve whatever you set your mind on. Must just apply yourself, and you need to work for it.
Okay, cool. So that was self-efficacy. And I'm just going to run through very quickly the other competencies and just how we've defined them. And we've got different methods and ways in which we bring them to life and how we teach them. So the other competency is opportunity assessment, the ability to analyze information, distinguishing between what's profitable and what's not, between what's high value and set it apart from low value opportunities. So the ability to understand information and identify the potential of something to be of value is what we call opportunity assessment. Opportunity recognition, on the other hand, it's the ability to evaluate an opportunity and make a decision regarding that opportunity. The next competency is creative problem solving. This is identifying more than one way to solve a problem, finding solutions with limited resources, turning problems into opportunities. And we do this in a variety of ways. We've got 5 practices of how we teach entrepreneurship. We've got practices of empathy. We've got practice of reflection, a practice of play. We've got gamified experiences. So our students, as they interact with the curriculum, they do different activities. Some are experiential in nature, but in all levels, these competencies are woven into their journey so that at the end of the fellowship, they have acquired or at least practiced all 14. Value creation, calculated risk-taking, for example, is the competence to identify ways and mitigate risks, weighing up the pros and cons of risks before making a decision. You need to be able to innovate, enhancing existing ideas and solutions, or linking the solutions to ideas that address a targeted audience or population. Action orientation, the extent to which a person is willing or is likely to take a practical action to deal with a problem or situation without being prompted, for example. And this is one big one, is that you need to be values driven. And the individual needs to be committed to hold their values. We have a partnership or a program that we're running with Rhodes University called Intetho Zobomi, which is existential conversations that we have where we do role plays. And because by the time we evaluate whether you're living to your values, sometimes it can be too late. So we put our candidates in a place where they are really tested in terms of their ethics, and the predetermined values that we teach them is something that we hope that they will hold on to them for the rest of their life. Leadership is an important competence, playing a leading role and in identifying the pathway to achieving whatever the vision may be. But what is consistently being developed is this growth mindset, the belief that different types of intelligence can be developed in order to improve the chances of success. That means that having a mindset that has the ability to be developed, and believing that different intelligence are required to be successful in life. This pursuit of long life learning and always wanting to be better is something that is consistently nurtured. From the first time that you join, we select for it, we develop for it, and we believe that it needs to be sustained throughout your career. Yes. Resilience is another competence, as I'm quickly about to wrap up. And then this locus of control that I spoke about, autonomy, believing that the task itself should be able to give you that satisfaction. And curiosity is one competence that we have found leads to entrepreneurial action. And just before I go, these are some of the companies that our fellows and have created. Some of them you may be familiar with. Yoko is one company that you may have come across that has that speed point system. And two of these companies are actually valued at R1 billion. And that's part of the target. That's where we're going for these high growth entrepreneurs, because those are the ones that can make true impact in a country and to the economy. However, we've got a lot of businesses that are valued between 1 million and 100 million rands. Currently, we've got in excess of about 90, if I'm not mistaken, of entrepreneurs that are creating jobs, indirect jobs and direct jobs currently, and are making a difference. And we feel as the foundation that through them, we are making a difference to this country and to the economy. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Dhlamini. And looking at the chat box, it doesn't really look like there are that many questions. But I'm just going to ask you a question and then you can take over and answer it. There's someone asking, as a first-year international student without South African citizenship, where can I apply for the program?
Okay, so we've got a sister foundation, XSA, for all the students that are within the SADC region outside of South Africa. You can just go to their website. They are also currently recruiting. You can apply directly there. And then once you've been selected by them, we then look after you in the South African context and make sure that all your needs are taken care of, all your development areas, and we assign a coach that looks after your personal development. So we do not segment you from the program once you've been selected by virtue of either being an international student. Once you are in the program, we treat everybody equally.
Okay, there's another question. There's somebody asking why second years can't also apply.
Second years can apply, but you see, the reason why we introduced the first year opportunity was for those who may have missed it while in grade 12, to say if you're in university, you can apply. But if you're in second year, we're looking either for direct, for people who've got a proven record of entrepreneurship. You can be nominated by either a candidate fellow who says, there's someone that I've identified in my institution that is in second year that I think would become a great fellow. And also that's because if you're applying in your second year, we've got a limited time period to spend with you to make you drink the Kool-Aid that I was speaking about. So we look for specific individuals that are already on this entrepreneurship journey and have a proven track record to come into the program. So previously, second years could apply, but I think now we're becoming more intentional with our recruitment at university to say We want those who are ready to walk the journey so that you can accelerate their success.
Okay, there's another question asking basically if one already has a bursary or funding, can they apply just for like mentorship and not funding?
Definitely, you can apply. We do not discriminate against anybody who's got funding. So for example, whether you've got a full scholarship from another company or institution, or you've got NSFAS funding, we will just top up whatever perhaps it makes the difference in terms of how we support all our other students, and you do then participate in the entrepreneurship development program as a whole, and you also are entitled to the entire wraparound support.
Okay, there's another question of on high school students, matric students, what are the requirements for those students to apply?
Seems like everybody's interested in the application process, nothing about the content. Okay, so in the, high school students, so we normally open applications in February. So for this year, we opened on the 10th of Feb and we closed on the 29th of May. You can apply with your grade 11 marks. So you must have a minimum of 60% in maths, and you must have an average of 70% of your grade 11 marks. That excludes life orientation. And you must be willing to study at our 10 partner universities. Currently, as I had put them there on the slide. And currently, we do not fund anyone who's going to pursue medicine. But we are looking at how we can craft a medical fellowship, mainly because of the timing difference. Our program is 4 years. So when you're pursuing medicine and veterinary sciences, there's a misalignment currently in terms of how we can support you better. However, we fund all other degrees and faculties.
Okay, it doesn't look like there's any more questions or questions about entrepreneurship, which is very surprising. But if there aren't any more questions, I think we will wrap it up. Thank you very much, Mr. Dhlamini, and we would also like to thank the University of Pretoria's Golden. Okay, somebody just asked that they're studying physiotherapy. Can they also apply? I think people really want to apply.
Physiotherapy, how long is that course? I think we do have some students. It depends on, do you do a BSc before that? It's 4 years. Yeah, so I think we do have students that are studying physiotherapy. So you can possibly apply.
Okay, if there aren't any more questions, well, let me just give you guys a few moments to just, okay, it doesn't look like there are any more questions. But yeah, thank you very much for your time, for taking the time out of your Saturday, because under the circumstances, we know that Saturdays are either people's catch-up days on whatever you didn't do during the week, or it's your sit back and relax day. So whichever day it is for you, everybody who's here, thank you so much for taking the time out and being here with us and talking about entrepreneurship. We would like to also thank the Golden Key University of Pretoria chapter. They were also advertising on our behalf, and everybody else was able to join, all the aspiring entrepreneurship, all the people that would like to apply for Allan Gray. It seems as if that was a very, very well accepted part of the talk. So thank you thank you very much. And there are people asking about postgrads as well. I think that is also about the fellowship program, so you can just address that and then we might be done.
All right, so we cover undergraduate studies. However, once you're inside the fellowship, you can apply for postgraduate studies. Unfortunately, directly from the fellowship, we do not at the moment, but it's not to say that it's something that we'll not reintroduce, because we also want to expand our reach. We're looking at different models of how we can accommodate those who have this passion to contribute to this country through entrepreneurship. So I cannot say that in the future we will not, but just currently, because of the duration of time that it takes for us to inculcate these values, the program is over 4 years. And it's pegged at a particular amount in terms of academic fees that we support. So currently, no, not postgraduates.
Okay. There is another question. There's somebody asking if you think there's ever a good time for one to pursue entrepreneurship. Should one typically acquire a business certificate, or can these skills be learned outside of one?
Yeah, I think the one thing that you must really do, and in how we're defining entrepreneurship as this opportunity discovery process. If you find a problem that in your daily life you are passionate about and you would like to solve, that's really where the journey begins. Way before the business certificates and all these other things, in order for you to, they are necessary for you to be able to trade. You need to register because you will not be able to have a bank account when you start to make sales. However, the basics is that you can start at any point in time, regardless of your age. And it starts by just looking around and saying, what is it that you're seeing as an opportunity, or what is a problem that is in your immediate environment? That's really where it starts. And you must then start thinking, how can I make it better for myself, but for everybody else around me? That's really the critical point of where entrepreneurship starts. It's that discovery of an opportunity.
Okay, there was another question also about the program. It was asking if one needs to have started something in order for them to join the program, or can they just join? Apply.
So we select for potential. So when you come through our process of selection, typically what we will want, we will look for certain character traits and things that a young person would have done. For example, if you are in grade 12, we want to know what have you achieved within your high school year. It could be you are part of the debating team. It could be you are part of an initiative. Those are the kind of things that we are able to interpret to say, okay, is this person a self-starter? Does this person take personal initiative? Is there a spirit of significance in this person where they've done something or gone beyond their own personal benefit for the benefit of others? So we've got ways of finding that potential. So it does not have to be in the form of an actual business that you've started, but it's a set of initiatives. And it's also your values and your belief systems. If they align, or there's a motivational fit with what we are trying to do, we believe we can develop you. But there are those who have started businesses. It does become an advantage, but it's not. It doesn't deselect you from the process if you've never.
Okay, I think that it looks like that's it.
Okay.
From myself, actually, I actually have a question.
Okay.
I know that we can't really say there is a perfect time for you to start a business or start something, but under the circumstances, lockdown and all, do you think it's advisable to start something that requires interaction with people, like something that requires you to be that requires people? Because at the moment it's pretty hard to access people, if that makes sense.
From my own journey, and I think from Mr. Gray's journey, the one thing I can say is that, and also why education is a very important pillar or a very important foundation to have, is we've seen that in most cases people would start businesses in industries that they understand, in industries that they've had experience in. For example, like I'm an accountant. I did my articles, and my first business was with a couple of friends to start an accounting firm because that's what we understood. Therefore, it was much easier to pursue that opportunity. So whether you're an engineer or it doesn't mean that you will start a business in what you studied, but in some cases, people often go out and get experience. There's no pressure for us to start a business now, for example. So to your question, with COVID-19 implications, obviously you need to pivot. We need to take into account the context of where we are, and in terms of saying, okay, what is my target market, and what is my product in relation to that market? What is the fit? Is it probable that it could be sustained, whether it's got COVID or not? So people are pivoting their businesses. Those who had contact type of businesses, you need to be able to adjust to the times that we're living in order for you to survive. It's those pillars that if you do not, you'll perish if you do not find a way to either know when the business is no longer sustainable and you either need to pivot or find something else. So I think you need to take into account the context and what you are able to do within that context.
Okay, thank you very much. And yeah, I actually wrote it down. I don't know why I forgot, but you did say adaptability is key. I shouldn't be maladaptive. So yeah, should really remember that. There's another question. Somebody is asking, okay, I think this is an answer, not a question, but they said, I believe that current COVID environment has shown people and businesses that moving to a digital market is beneficial. Do you think that entrepreneurs should adjust their initial business ideas to account for the growing digital market?
I think to a certain extent it is important, but not everybody, not everything needs to be an app. I think there's still a need to have the businesses that have contact. For example, I've got a side hustle. It's a delivery business. So we've got other people who then have platforms that enable deliveries to happen, but the goods still need to get from the warehouse to the supermarket. So there is enough space for everybody to play without everybody going directly to digitize, because it depends what market you may be in. There is that aspect for you, and certain questions that you need to ask to say, how do I make sure I become sustainable given the current environment that you're operating in? And there's certain methods that we can be able to guide you through our entrepreneurship coaches, certain questions that you need to unpack. You need to evaluate your value proposition. We've got a canvas that you need to complete for you to ask the critical questions to get to those kind of answers. But yeah, we've got people that assist you to build businesses. We've got mentors that can be able to help you navigate or reinvent yourself. But it's very important to be able to reinvent yourself to ensure that you are sustained going into the future.
Okay, thank you very much. If there aren't any more questions, which it doesn't look like there are any, I think we might just wrap it up here. I think would love so much on behalf of the Wits History Makers to thank you so much for taking the time out of your day and coming and being with us and sharing all your knowledge with us. It was so informative, and I think every single person that was here probably learned a few things. It's not even probably, definitely learned a few things. So thank you very much. And to everybody else that took their time to come and be with us, thank you so much again for taking the time out of your day, out of your weekend, out of your busy schedules, because I know everybody has something going on. So thank you very, very much.
Thank you for inviting me.